So my name is Christine, and I am a grateful compulsive overeater, exercise bulimic and restrictor. I gratefully weigh and measure 3 meals off the gray sheet. I write them down. I commit them to my sponsor on time, and I don't eat 2 meals no matter what. So I have been in every shape, form, and faction of OA. I've been in OA How, OAPP, A Vision for You, the regular rooms, in Gray Sheet. And the only thing that really worked for me was Gray Sheet. I've also been to intensive outpatient program for binge eating. I've tried medication. I've been to nutritionist at least twice. And again, the only thing that ever worked for me was Gray Sheet. I think, or I believe, because of the total abstinence. I believe wholeheartedly that I am bodily and mentally different than other people. There's a chemical reaction when I put substances into my body that creates an insatiable drive to get more of it. I come from a very dysfunctional family, tons and tons of trauma. And in order to survive that family, I had to develop skills like self-reliance, not needing anybody, doing things on my own. I basically became an adult by the time I was 8 years old, and had to run my own show. And all those character defects that I developed really bit me in the ass when it came to my recovery. I've been around these rooms for about 8 years. I'm also a grateful member of Al-Anon, which saved my life, and got me into OA through the back door. A very dear friend of mine in Al-Anon brought me into Gray Sheet, and I danced around. I didn't want to do it. I did it for a while, but when I was in Gray Sheet, I ate with that lingering doubt. You know how the big book says, you must extinguish that lingering doubt? I had that lingering doubt every time I went back to the food. I really thought that I could handle it. I'm educated, a content expert in addiction. I travel all over the country to teach people about addiction, yet I really felt like I could handle it. I also tried medication, which was a disaster. I ended up in a cardiac care unit with chest pain from the medication. So what happened? What's different this time? What's different this time is I think there's no lingering doubt. I have been given the clarity of mind that I cannot do this by myself, and I need you guys. Like, the Zooms have changed my life. I get onto a meeting once a day. I'm with people. I hear my story and your story. I see your beautiful faces. I see the freedom you have. I want what you have. So I'm willing to do what you do. So I'll tell you a little bit about, food was always there when I was a kid. It was the only way my parents really formally loved me. I remember eating to gluttony. I remember eating till I was sick. Everything. I've done everything you've done. I love hearing the war stories because I can relate. But today it's different. Today I plan, prioritize, protect, and pray. My life is very different. It's around the food, but in a different way. My sole purpose right now is to get abstinent food in the house and to organize it in the refrigerator in clear containers, cut and chopped and ready to go. That's how I have to live my life. If I don't do that, my life is completely on the skitters. I can't function. I'm in such a place of darkness. The food made me very, very dark. I also realized that from my childhood, I received very damaging messages about myself. And those damaging messages fed the binging, like the fuck it's, how you just give up and do it. I was listening to the wrong side of my brain when I didn't have the coping reserve, or I had it no matter what. I just went right to that negative place because that's all I knew. That was familiar. But I eventually learned from being in program that messaging is damaged, and I can no longer tolerate that, because when I hear that messages, I go out and eat. So I'm just thinking about life differently these days. I'm realizing that I no longer have to carry the pain of my childhood into my life. So I'll tell you what happened. June 2019, my husband and my kids and I moved out of the house I'm currently in, and we renovated it for 8 months. And we lived with my sister-in-law during that time. And I brought my scale with me. I knew there was something about the scale I had to take with me. I just took it with me, and I occasionally weighed. But I wasn't in program. I was listening to meetings desperately. I was on the radio desperately, on the phone calls desperately. I was reading everything about binge eating disorder. I was so distraught that I couldn't get out of my own way. But it was just as simply as just stopping and looking at what I needed to do.
That's 5 minutes.
So part of the 12 steps why I left in the beginning was that I was really stuck on having to make amends to my perpetrators. I have 2 perpetrators that I could not make amends to. And I was so angry that I was being asked to make amends to them. And that's what kept me in the darkness, was the anger, resentment, and doing it my own way. So what happened to me is I had like a moment of clarity. On Father's Day of this year, my father's 95 years old guy. He's 95 years old. He's in assisted living. And when he would call me, I would my hair would stand up and like nails in the chalkboard. I just couldn't stand hearing his voice. I couldn't stand being near him. So it was Father's Day, and like around 8 o'clock at night, I hadn't called him for Father's Day. And then finally I called him and I said, Dad, I'm having a really hard time calling you for Father's Day. It's really difficult for me to wish you happy Father's Day because of the way you parented me. The way you parented me had substantial consequences in my life. And it was damaging to me, and I cannot, in good faith, wish you happy Father's Day. So in that moment, I was free because I was making amends to myself, not to him, but to me. It was my time to stop carrying the pain and the sorrow of my childhood and give it directly back to him. And that was Father's Day, June, 15th, 2020. And I was coming to meetings, listening, and I knew there was something here, man. You got some serious grease lightning, some serious magic here. I knew it was here. So I was coming to meetings and listening, but still eating. But then I felt like I couldn't be here and eat. I felt like the sacredity of the meeting. So August 6th, which is an important date, I finally said, okay, I'll get a sponsor. I'll do what I'm told. And from that day on, I was abstinent. And that is my mother's birthday. She died like 8 years ago, but her birthday is August 6th. And I do believe that this is her recognition or apology for what happened in my childhood. I really believe like it's a spiritual experience. Making amends to my father, stop carrying in the pain, and then being abstinent. I do believe, as much as my mother was a disaster in my life, I do believe there's some spiritual process going on where she granted me this abstinence. The other piece that I wanted to share was part of leaving the house. We rebuilt our home. I'm living in this gorgeous home. I got every design element I wanted. My husband hired me, every award-winning designer from Beacon Hill in Massachusetts. But I'm in this house. We wanted to do this project for 20 years. I'm in the house and I'm miserable. I'm absolutely miserable. So before I left, one of the awarenesses I had years ago that got me back to program was I was at the cabinet just eating, not knowing why I was eating, but I was eating, right? I'm at the kitchen cabinet eating. I had no control over it. I was eating against my will. Dark cloud. Fast forward to this past June, I'm at the new kitchen cabinet, eating against my will in a dark cloud. And nothing had changed from the previous kitchen cabinet to this kitchen cabinet. Nothing changed. The food was still the issue for me. The only thing that hadn't changed was my willingness to understand with clarity that I was different than other people. I've been to the big book 3 times. I know it by heart. I can recite to you the big book. I studied it and I learned words, but I wasn't willing. I still thought in my heart of heart that I had it covered. So between that kitchen counter experiment that happened, the amends to my dad, my mother's birthday, I've been abstinent for 103 days. The other thing that has really made a huge impact in my life is that for 8 years I was in program, taking phone calls, taking people's food, giving my food to other people, reading the big book, going to meetings. And my kids saw me as a recovered mother. They saw me weighing and measuring restaurants. They saw me doing the stuff we do. They were like my, like my army. Like we go to a restaurant and they would just like converge upon me. They move all the silverware and glassware to my direction so it would be hidden, And what was really killing was that they were seeing me active in my disease, and that was breaking my heart. You know, because my mother was active in her disease my whole life, and she destroyed all her kids' lives because of her alcoholism. And I didn't want to do that to my kids. So my older boy, who has Asperger's, he's hysterical. He's very dry and cut and dry. He's never said a word about my eating, except with this time. They're all home from the pandemic. So I'd hear him say, Mom, you snacking again? Mom, you snacking again? So like that was his way of saying, Mom, you're eating again.
That's 10 minutes.
Okay, so I have 5 to go. Okay, thanks. And my other son is, he would call me from school and say, Mom, how's your food? Mom, how's the thing going? Like he knew that I had a disease, and he would call me from school. And when he came home from the pandemic, he's like, come on, Mom, what are you doing eating, Mom? You were doing so well. And then my husband, God bless my husband, God love him. He would say, Christine, come on, you got to fight back. Don't give up, you got to fight back. So I had that, like, that love behind me, which I think made a huge difference. So I'm willing today to do it. Like, and I see now that the priority is I can get abstinent, but I can never stay abstinent. And it's the staying abstinent that really is the goal for me. It's coming to meetings, doing service as much as I can, and really organizing my life around the food. I work 3 days a week in a very chaotic job. And food was my go-to, you know, like help me get through it. But do you know what? For the last 103 days, I haven't eaten at work, which is nothing short of a miracle. And I do believe it's because I'm fully abstinent from the grains, flour, sugar that affect me differently. Like I'm just like a alcoholic with food. I'm just like a heroin addict with heroin. I'm just like the cocaine addict with cocaine. The only difference is that we have to ingest this substance every day. I don't have to drink every day. I don't have to do cocaine every day. I just don't have it in my house, but I have to eat. So the only way I've been able to do it with any sanity is by eliminating all the grains from flour and sugar. And I have to say, my food is beautiful. I love my food. I make my food as abundant as possible, as crunchy and as colorful as possible. Now, I sound like one of those crazy ladies in gray sheet, but guess what? I've earned my way to be a crazy lady in gray sheet. I've hurt myself with food. I've eaten to gluttony. I've eaten to the point where I had to exercise it off. And I want to say that one of the first things that left me since I've been weighing my food is the need to compulsively overexercise. And I'm so grateful for that. I've hurt myself physically from exercising too much. My last journey into compulsive exercising, I believe, was my last journey. I had binged at work, come home in a full work outfit, high heels, the whole bit. And I had plans on a winter night to go exercise it off in my high heels. That is where my disease took me. It took me to such a place of darkness. So today I exercise because I want to keep my body healthy. I don't exercise every day. I don't run when I shouldn't be running. I don't, pound my body the way I used to pound it. I exercise for self-health and for joy and to be able to be present with my body, which is something new. So I hope that I helped somebody in this. In this, I'm so grateful to have listened to your stories and your recovery. But it really is about stopping and recognizing that I'm worth it. I'm worth not harming myself with food. I didn't know that before. That was not my message from childhood. My message from childhood was horrendously dark and black. And once I made the amends to myself to stop carrying that, like I don't carry that burden as much as I used to. Like I used to live it every day. I have to pick up the scale. I have to pick up the gray sheet. That's what I have to carry if I want to have any sense of happiness or sanity or light in my life. In the food, I'm dark. And out of the food, I'm free and I'm light. And one thing I want to say is that I have to work on my spiritual condition. That's something that I have to do. I didn't do it last time because I don't have to, right? I got this, I'm good, I'm fine, I can handle it. I cannot handle this on my own. So I want to kind of commit that I will begin to work on my spiritual life and I do believe that this is a gift from God. There's no way I got this on my own. I was so down and trodden. And I want to say I don't come from big numbers weight-wise, but I come from enormous numbers carrying the emotional weight of a childhood and of trauma that would just drag me down. They were like a rock around my neck, just kept on dragging me down. And it wasn't until I let go and gave the pain back to the person who gave it to me, who needed it. I don't need it anymore. And if you knew, just get in the herd. Just get in the herd. You know, don't be an outlier. Don't be observer. Don't be better than. Just get in, and they'll carry you. These people on these meetings are unbelievable. I'm giving my food to somebody I don't know in Missouri. She's abstinent 22 years, and she is the most loving, kind person. Like, she actually cares about my food.
That's time.
Thanks. So find somebody that you want to, you know, let them take you under your wing and surrender. It's so much easier surrender than it is fighting, because I'm killing myself every time I fight, you know, and I'm living a good life every time I surrender. So with that, I'll pass. Thank you.